it is climate change. There's no question it is climate change. In other words, if we don't stop the use of CO2, of carbon, if we don't rebalance the climate, we may wipe civilization, which I am passionate about, off the earth, off the face of the earth. So as architects, we have a big responsibility. About 75% of all energy, and this is nearly all carbon energy, comes from cities and transportation. And though it's not a direct responsibility, quality of design, the way you design, will affect that type will affect climate change. I suppose the vision in a way is that we have the means now. We know both how to design better cities and how to design energy which is more or less clean. We can use the wind, the sun, the geothermal, all these elements we can do. That's clean energy. We can also invent new energies. We can break down oxygen, CO2. We can break down, biotechnology is now already breaking down plants which can absorb CO2 faster and faster. So biotechnology, and the use of existing materials as well, we can produce clean energy. That will not only make the world a lot better in terms of climate change, of course, it will also have an effect politically. The crisis we have today politically is very much about oil. I think there is a difference. I think when I work in Japan, it has a very different scale to when you work in New York, to have an example. But when I go to Japan, I don't become Japanese any more than when I go to New York, do I become a New Yorker. Tokyo and New York, to just take two examples, are different. But the regulations are different. I try to absorb, as we all try to absorb what's happening in that area, what the scale, the grain, what the form of the buildings are, the morphology of the buildings are, and from that gives me food for thought, food for design. But of course, we still carry our cultures with us, because in the end, I'm proud to have been born here, even though I have not done much work here, and I still have some Italian culture, which I take everywhere, as I do English, which is my education. In general, if we're looking very broad, there's probably not a big difference. And the thing about the network, the web, if you like, is that it makes everything, we communicate. So I know more or less at the same time what's going on in New Zealand as I know what's going on in Alaska, to take more or less opposite places. We can plug in and we know what it's about. So we have the information. We also have the choice. If you don't like a scientist or an architect, and architects are both scientists and artists, if you like. If we don't like one, we can go to South America or Russia. In other words, we have choice, we have knowledge. It's a question how we use that choice and that knowledge. And theoretically, we should be able to get out of the problems we're facing by using that knowledge. We have a lot of existing historical problems, which tends to set us constraints. Things like nationalism, things like the distribution of wealth, things like religion. These are critical problems which create friction between society, and we have to find ways around it. I suppose architecture is about giving order to space. It's about giving scale, rhythm, it's about beauty to space. And it's about the play of light and shadow en masse, if you like. It's all about the language of architecture. I should be talking about in this lecture this afternoon about the language of architecture. It's a language just like writing an essay, like when you speak. It's a language, and it's how you put those sentences together. We put buildings together in a way, in the same, hopefully harmonious and poetic way. But I think in the end, you don't. It's not like winning. You're not an Olympic sprint champion. You don't want to make the fastest 100-meter race. You're trying to build up a cultural framework in which you work in your team. One has to remember that one works with teams. As architects, unlike painters, unlike writers, I can't go off into my little room, my garret in a roof somewhere and do something. I work with society. I work with my team. I've been working with my team for 50 years now, and we try and solve problems in the environmental field. If we get awards, of course, it's much nicer to get awards than getting bricks thrown at you.